If you were born into royalty, you'd probably think your life would be perfect. Wealth, power, luxury. But what if that royal blood came with a curse? A curse not from magic, but from your own family. Because centuries ago, kings and queens believed that marrying your cousin was a good idea, a way to keep the blood pure. And it worked, until it didn't. Generations of these marriages twisted bloodlines so badly that by the time our story's queen was born, her own body and mind were falling apart from the inside. People whispered she was bewitched, possessed by something dark. But the truth was far worse than witchcraft. This is the haunting story of Queen Maria Throne of Portugal. The queen so inbred, her own people thought she was cursed. Now before we dive in, ask yourself, how far would you go to protect your family's power? Because the answer might terrify you. For centuries, Europe's royal families were obsessed with one thing: keeping their blood noble. So they married within their own families, cousins, uncles, nieces. It sounds insane today, but back then, it was politics. You didn't marry for love. You married to keep your throne. And no family did this more, or suffered more, than the Habsburgs. They ruled massive empires, Spain, Austria, parts of Italy, and believed no outsider was good enough. So, for hundreds of years, they kept recycling their own DNA like a bad family recipe. And like any bad recipe, the results got worse with every generation. Deformed jaws, weak immune systems, infertility, and in some cases, mental instability so severe, people thought it was possession. You've heard of King Charles V of Spain, right? The man so inbred he could barely chew or speak, nicknamed the Bewitched. Well, Queen Maria. I came from that same tangled family tree, and her story might be even darker, because while Charles's body broke down, Maria's mind did. Maria was born in 1734 into the Portuguese royal family, a line already crumbling from generations of cousin marriages. From birth, she was delicate, sensitive, anxious, and deeply religious. Her family saw her emotional nature as a sign of grace. But doctors today would call it something else. A genetic time bomb ticking quietly inside her. She grew up surrounded by priests, prayers, and fear of sin. Her mother told her that everything she did was being watched by God. Imagine growing up in a palace but being terrified of your own thoughts. Still, when her father died, Maria became the first woman to rule Portugal. At first, she was strong, kind, and intelligent, loved by her people. She cared about education, hospitals, and justice. Portugal flourished under her rule. But history has a cruel sense of timing, because soon after, tragedy began to hit one after another, like a chain of falling dominoes. Her husband, who was also her uncle, died suddenly. Then her eldest son, the heir to the throne, died too. Then her beloved confessor, her spiritual guide, passed away. Each loss shattered her a little more. She would cry uncontrollably, screaming in the middle of church services, begging God for mercy. Sometimes she thought she was going to hell. Other times, she said she could hear the screams of the damned in her head. At first, her court tried to hide it. The queen is tired, they said. She just needs rest. But soon, it became impossible to ignore. She began talking to ghosts. She refused to change her clothes or sleep in her bed. She would sing to herself for hours, then suddenly burst into tears. Priests thought she was possessed by the devil. Doctors thought she was insane. And her people began to whisper, "Our queen is bewitched." Now pause for a second. Imagine being a servant in that palace. You hear your queen screaming at night, praying until she loses her voice. You're told not to speak of it. Would you obey or run? By 1790, Maria's condition had become impossible to hide. Her surviving son, João, secretly took control of the government. They locked the queen inside the palace, guarded by servants who were forbidden to speak of what they saw. But rumors spread anyway. Some said she tore apart her rosaries, shouting that God had abandoned her. Others said she believed she had killed her family with her sins. And one chilling story claimed she refused to bathe because she believed the water was cursed. Doctors tried every treatment of the time. Cold baths, bloodletting, prayers, even shock therapy. Nothing worked. One witness said her screams could be heard echoing through the corridors of the palace at night. She was no longer the powerful Queen of Portugal, just a broken woman trapped in a golden cage. Here's the strange twist. Her subjects didn't hate her. They pitied her. They prayed for her, because deep down, They feared her fate could strike anyone of royal blood. This wasn't the wrath of God. It was the price of centuries of inbreeding. Then came Napoleon. In 1807, his armies invaded Portugal. The royal family fled across the Atlantic to Brazil. And yes, they took the mad queen with them. Imagine that journey, a queen locked in a dark cabin on a ship for weeks, crying, praying, whispering to ghosts. Even the ocean couldn't drown her screams. In Brazil, she lived in isolation, in a palace surrounded by priests and caretakers. Her son João ruled in her place, pretending everything was fine. But she was gone, her mind completely lost to grief and madness. She believed her dead husband still lived. She called for her sons who were long buried. And yet, when she finally died in 1816, her people mourned her deeply. They said she had been touched by God. Others whispered she had been cursed from birth. But historians today know the truth. She wasn't cursed. She was a victim of her own family's choices. When scientists later studied the royal family's genealogy, they found that Maria's ancestors had been marrying cousins for centuries. In some cases, the same ancestor appeared multiple times in one family tree. That meant the same recessive genes, the ones that can cause mental illness and deformities, kept getting passed down again and again until they exploded in Maria's generation. So when people said she was bewitched, they weren't completely wrong. But it wasn't by magic. It was by science, by biology, by the arrogance of kings and queens who thought they could play God. Her story became a warning across Europe. Royal families started marrying outside their bloodlines more often, not because they stopped believing in purity, but because they had finally seen what pure blood really meant. And today, when we look at portraits of Queen Maria I, with her gentle smile and haunted eyes, we don't see a witch. We see a woman born into a nightmare she never chose. So, what can we learn from her story? That power, no matter how great, can't protect you from nature. That trying to control everything, even your own bloodline, can end up destroying you. It's haunting, but it's also deeply human. Because the real curse wasn't magic, it was obsession. And if you think that kind of obsession only existed in history books, think again. Today, people chase perfection in different ways, in money, status, and success. And that obsession can trap us too. If you want to see how small decisions can change your destiny, not through royal blood, but through something anyone can use, click the video on your screen now. It's about the power of compounding, how tiny choices made every day can transform your entire life. Because while Queen Maria's story shows how destruction compounds over generations, you can learn how growth does the same. So don't let the past's mistakes haunt your future. Click the next video and see how real power grows quietly, one choice at a time.